Good morning and welcome to the Environmental Protection Commission meeting. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation given by Chaplain Commissioner White.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Heavenly Father, we thank you for all of the hard work that this EPC staff does to give us a clean environment and a beautiful atmosphere in which to live. And we appreciate the long-standing dedication of those retirees that are going to be recognized today. Lord, we pray that you'll guide this board, our staff, and stakeholders as we make important decisions this morning. And as always, Lord, we ask that you will place a healing, comforting, and guiding hand on our first responders and members of our armed forces. We pray that you will keep them safe, comfort them, and deliver them home safely. We ask all of these things in your heavenly name. Amen.
Amen.
Before we get started, I have a memo from Commissioner Al Higginbotham saying I'm unable to attend today's Environmental Commission meeting. Please read this memo into the record. And before I call on our Executive Director, Commissioner White, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I just wanted to state for the record that I am going to have to leave at about 10 o'clock this morning. I can probably hang around till 10:05, 10:10. I apologize in advance and hope that doesn't create an issue.
Well, you're not the only one. You got to leave at 10. Commissioner Merritt has to leave at 10. Commissioner Hagan needs to leave 10. I need to be out of here by 10.
So I think staff knows to
we'll
move it along. Okay.
We'll push through.
Thank you.
Ms. Doherty, is there any changes to the agenda?
No, Commissioner.
Any removal of consent items for question and comment?
No, sir.
Okay. Recognitions.
Good morning, Commissioners. We have 3 recognitions this morning. The first one is for our Scholastic Environmental Merit Award. And this year, the award winning is Pragnya Kulkarni. And she is here with her mom and dad, Shri and Venue. And we are going to bring them up. EPC awards 1 project from Hillsborough County Regional STEM Fair with its Scholastic Environmental Merit Award, and a 1-year membership to the Florida Aquarium for her and her family. This year's winner, Pragnya, is with us today. Her teacher, is her teacher here? Oh, mom and teacher, okay. Well, okay, so there's her, so your nickname's Shri, because it's a long name, okay. Is also her mother, and she is with us today. Her project was entitled, "Which Type of Plant is Highly Effective in Reducing Atmospheric Carbon Dioxide?" It was selected because it was well thought out and a designed experiment and addressed potential ways to help counter increased carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere and resulting in global climate change. So we'd like to bring them up here and recognize them. Congratulations. Thank you. We have a certificate for you right here from the EPC. And would you like to, Mom and Dad, and would you like to say something? You want to say something about this project?
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. I would like to thank you for this opportunity to explain my STEM Fair project. As global warming and rising CO2 levels have become very pertinent in the last few years, I wanted to find a solution to this problem. Knowing that all plants absorb CO2 for photosynthesis, I wondered if there was a certain type of plant that absorbed more CO2 than others. From this question, I created my project, which plant is highly effective in absorbing atmospheric carbon dioxide. To test this, I made a simulated earth in a 2-liter bottle. I added soil until the bottle was 1/4 filled and added 75 milliliters of water to keep the soil moist. To measure the CO2, I brought a CO2 level indicator. This measured the CO2 level in parts per million, or ppm. First, I used a 2-liter bottle with soil as my control. To test the carbon dioxide levels, I cut a plastic cup in half and filled it with 75 milliliters of water. I had tested the carbon dioxide level before adding my Alka-Seltzer tablet. I used Alka-Seltzer to mimic the release of CO2 into the atmosphere. Once I dropped the Alka-Seltzer into the cup with water, I tested the CO2 level. I covered the 2-liter bottle with plastic wrap to make sure no CO2 escaped. I tested the carbon dioxide levels once every hour for 3 hours and after 24 hours. The 2 plants I had decided to test were the holy basil, or Ocimum tenuflorum, and marigold, or tagetes. I used these plants because many people grow marigolds in their backyards, and I had researched that the holy basil had absorbed a lot of carbon dioxide. I repeated the same procedure I used for the constant, except with the holy basil and then the marigold plant. I repeated the experiment for 3 trials for each plant. In conclusion, I found that the holy basil reduced 8% more carbon dioxide than the marigold. Thank you.
Thank you. Did your parents want to say something?
I would like to thank you for giving her an opportunity to come here and explain her project. And we both are from Middleton High School. I'm her teacher too. So Middleton High School has promoted her to challenge themselves to take part in STEM fair and other competitive clubs and organizations. So thank you.
Good, good. Now, what school you say you went to?
Middleton High School?
There's some great people went to Middleton High School.
Yes, they did. Yes. So go
I graduated
Tigers.
before any of you were born. Yes, but I went to Middleton High School. A lot of great people came out of Middleton High School. So what do you plan on doing after you graduate?
I plan on going into the medical field. I'm in the biomed magnet program.
To what school you planning?
Probably USF or UF.
USF. No. Well, thank you and congratulations on your award, and keep up the good work. Thank you so very, very much.
So go Tigers and go Bulls.
There you go. We'll take a picture. Come on up.
Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations again. Let's keep it up, okay?
Great job. Keep up the good work. Yeah, keep up the good work. All of you.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work. All right. Congratulations.
We'll have to grow a lot of basil.
Middleton High School, all right.
A lot of good things going on.
Oh, yeah.
With that, Commissioner, we're going to move on to 2 retirement and recognitions. We're also going to be giving them Lifetime Achievement Awards. As you see, we have over 70 years of combined institutional knowledge. With both of these wonderful, stellar individuals, they will be retiring next Friday. I've left an article by Jerry Campbell that was in Sunday's paper. It's an op-ed piece. We're all breathing a lot easier, not only from his dedicated service, but his staff and what's going on at the EPC. But although the article says we're breathing easier, it's a kind of bittersweet moment because it's with great pride and sadness to have to say goodbye to these people, but also recognize them. I'm going to talk about Jerry Campbell first. He received his Bachelor in Science in Meteorology from Penn State and his Master's of Engineering from the University of Florida. He started with EPC in 1983 as a temporary employee. He is EPC's first professional licensed engineer. He served the agency, again, with distinction for 35 years and the last 19 years as Director of Air Management. His accomplishments: he experienced the first local air program to get delegation from the state, or emulsion hearings, coronets closing, the amphitheater case, and finally, ozone attainment for Tampa Bay. He's chaired several outside organizations, such as Air and Waste Management Associations, Chapter and FLARA and Southeast U.S. Air and local organizations. He also has a lovely wife named Bobby and 3 great kids that are all doing well and will be at his EPC retirement party this week. And with that, I'd like to bring him up, and then I'll bring Woodrow up second. Congratulations. Jerry, we're giving you this Lifetime Achievement Award. It's a beautiful picture. It demonstrates the air as it's reflected into the water. But I did want to give Jerry a minute or two just to have whatever comments he'd like to make.
Thank you, Janet. Thank you for those kind words. Next week, we're going to have an event at the agency, and I'll be thanking my colleagues then. But I wanted to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you commissioners. I've had the privilege of working at EPC, and I've seen the differences they can make in the community, and it's been wonderful. But it's only been with the support of this board from a leadership standpoint and support you've been behind the agency. And I want you to know, from an agency perspective, we certainly appreciate that. And from a personal perspective, Janet mentioned that I started as a temporary employee. I had to talk my brand new bride into leaving a good job in Gainesville and coming to Tampa, where we didn't know anybody, to take this temporary position with EPC. And it turned out to be a great decision because it's been a great career. And I want to thank each and every one of you for that. My family now calls Tampa home, and we plan to stay here. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
As many people know, Dr. Garrity called Jerry Campbell Metrics Man. I renamed him the Mailman because he always delivers. He has made my job seamless in the transition, and we will miss him. He is starting an alumnus association with other EPCers and environmental people, so you'll see Jerry Campbell back. I'm certain of that. With that, we're moving on to our second recognition, which is Woodrow Batchelor, who works in the Water Division. He has a Master's of Engineering from the University of London, Imperial College of Science and Technology. He joined EPC's Water Division as an engineer in April of 1986. He was promoted to Environmental Manager in 1989 with primary responsibility for water engineering and compliance activities. He was upgraded to APE2 2003 in charge of special projects and technical support, industrial wastewater section, phosphate permitting, and compliance. His accomplishments are that he assisted in securing the 1995 delegation of the domestic program for the state for wastewater. He's a team leader in securing the 2000 industrial waste program delegation from the DEP. EPC is still the only state delegated industrial wastewater program. He's a team leader for the development and implementation of the Water Division's vision and collection system databases, and those are extremely important. He has been the coordinator of the specific operating agreement regarding delegation with the FDEP. And I'd like to say he also, I think, has 4 children. His wife, Cordell, is with us. She works for the Public Defender's Office, so I'd like to invite them up now for his recognition and her recognition as well. And this picture was chosen. We have branding now at the agency. There's 4 pictures in the Water Division. This is one that you'll see on a banner, but it's a beautiful dolphin hopping over the waves. Woodrow is from Jamaica, and will probably be going back to visit, but I'm sure he'll see a lot of that in his new retirement.
Thank you.
You want to say something, Woodrow?
Yeah. Good morning, commissioners. Thank you, Janet, for those kind words. At this time, I just take this opportunity to thank the citizens of Hillsborough County for giving me the opportunity to serve them. EPC has been a great home for me. EPC is a family. I've enjoyed working there, and especially in the last 3 years with Janet, with our leader. Can't say enough about Janet here, and thanks again. And thanks
On behalf of this board, let me thank both of you for your service. But however, Human Resources just sent a letter down saying that there will be no retirements from EPC in the next 5 years, so sorry it's not going to happen. No, but congratulations to both of you. Wish you the very best in your future endeavors. I know that you're too young to retire and not do anything at all. But again, thank you so very much on behalf of this board for your service to Hillsborough County. Thank you. Come on. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Before we move into public comment, I want to note that we will be holding a public hearing on Chapter 1-6, the fee schedule rules amendments, later in the meeting. So we request that you reserve your comments on this matter until the public hearing is held. If you're going to make those comments, we're going to wait to that particular point in time. Moving now to public hearing, is there anyone wishing to address the body at this time? Anyone? Seeing no one, we move on. Approval of consent agenda. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Second. Motion by Commissioner Murma, second by Commissioner Kemp to approve the consent agenda. Seeing no further discussion, please record your vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
We're now moving to our public hearing. At this time, I need a motion to open the public hearing to consider amendments to EPC Schedule Fee Rule, Chapter 1-6. There's a motion by Commissioner Kemp, second by Commissioner White, that we open the public hearing. Seeing no further discussion, please record your vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
Mr. Tarzan, we'll explain the process. Has this hearing been properly noticed?
Yes, Commissioner, it has. It was noticed in the Tampa Bay Times March 8th and also posted on our website, so it's legally noticed.
Okay, so
what we plan to do is, if the commission approves, is have Jerry Campbell give us an overview of the rule, followed by required public comment, and then the board discussion and vote.
okay, Mr. Campbell, you recognize.
There is one thing I'd like to say before Mr. Campbell starts. The rule does also, 1-6 deals with our fees, but the rule also is proposed to be amended for some cleanup language, some typographical, stylistic changes. These are non-substantive portions of the rule that we would like to clean up at this time. We don't intend on going over those individually unless you have any questions about it, but that is included in the amendment, some of those narrative types of comments. We also have one change to the rule as it was proposed, as it was published. We have a definition in 1-6.02 D4. It's a short definition about open burning. Staff would like to have that deleted out of the proposed rule if the rule goes forward. So any motion that is proposed would have that deleted, and we'll make that in the recommendation. That is just an unnecessary definition that we saw was duplicative, so we want to take that out. So other than that, if you have any questions, we can proceed with Mr. Campbell.
Now, you just said a lot, but in the recommendation from staff, that will be included in that recommendation?
That will be included in the recommendation, but I just wanted to point out because it's different than what was published, and I have to point that out.
Okay.
So, but you'll see it again at the end.
Mr. Campbell, you recognize.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jerry Campbell, staff to EPC. I have a brief overview of the amendment that's in front of you, and at the end we will be asking you for a vote. The authorization for this commission to consider a fee was given to you by the state legislature in 1967. Authorized you to set appropriate fees for services. That has been done through Chapter 1-6. It was first initiated in 1975, and it has gone through several changes since then. The last time it was done a comprehensive update to full cost was in 2003. Another significant date to keep in mind is in 2009, this commission adopted the Board of County Commissioners policy. Any fees set by any organization under them must come back periodically and give them a report on full cost. In April of 2016, we came in front of the commission. You directed us to do that. We were told to hold several workshops, which we did. We held 3. We talked to our stakeholders. We invited over 500 to each one of the workshops. This included developers, consultants, environmental groups, permit holders. Last month's meeting, you directed us to advertise for the public hearing today. We then drafted a rule, and as Mr. Sean said, we put it on the website, and we held an additional workshop, a rule workshop, on March 7th. Full cost methodology is the same as we reported to you last month. We went through each activity. We measured it out in terms of hours assigned to each well-trained personnel, what they would take them to do each one of those tasks. We used the median salary from each classification that was involved, and we included indirect and a fringe rate based on the FY18 numbers. Some of the efficiencies that we pointed out last month, which I'll mention again, the agency has put into a number of efficiencies, particularly in the last 10 years. We have been more timely, and I think if you look under the second bullet, you'll see the 3 types of permits that we issue from the agency, and you say that the average time to process from 2009 to last year, for instance, for the delegated permits from the Department of Environmental Protection, went on the average from 57 days to 16, despite the fact that the workload went up, and this is true across the board over the last 10 years. This has been done with less staff, so the agency has tried to be more efficient, and I think that's reflected in our full cost study that we're going to, and the amendment numbers that we're proposing to you today. I will also point out that the average cost per capita for the agency is down. It's down almost 20% during this time period. So we feel like we have been efficient, and we feel that is reflected in this study. Stakeholder comments. So we've held a total of 4 workshops. Each time we sent out individual emails to over 500 of our customers. This is the list of the comments that were made. The first 4 you heard last month. The last one, the new comment that we got at the last workshop I'll mention, and that was somebody from the Port of Tampa came and talked to us about their fees. We made some changes to make sure that they were comfortable with what we were proposing, and that's been done. So some of the amendment highlights, we went about this, and I think a couple things we want to point out was we wanted to make sure that these were equitable adjustments, we approached it from a fairness perspective. Not every one of the fees that you're going to see in front of you is full cost. Because of the equitable idea and the fairness issue, some cases, although not often, we're not recommending full cost. But one of the things that we did was we looked at different types of applications, and I'll mention this first one, for instance, a commercial site development. In the 2003 fees that are now in our rules, we had, for any type of application that came in, that type of application would be charged a set fee, whether it was more complex or less complex. And staff through this study found out that the ones that were less complex, we perhaps should be charging another fee, a lesser fee, more fair. In fact, this is exactly what Development Services determined over time. So we looked at making sure that the amendment in front of you reflects equitable adjustments, fairness. We also tried to provide incentives to get people to do the right things. Here we talk about asbestos notifications, requiring people to submit them, but not charging them, because it's the right thing to do. It helps them, it helps us, it helps the public. And also we're trying to establish consistency. A big thing that we heard from our stakeholders was, particularly in the wetlands area where we could, they wanted us to reflect what other agencies are doing in terms of their fees. So we went to a method now where we're not going to be delineating our wetlands and our mitigation areas by linear foot, but we're going to be going to the Water Management District's procedure of charging per acre. So there's consistency there, and it makes it simpler a little bit for the consultants as well, and the regulated community. This is a very busy table, I realize, but this is a study that we did. We went back and we tried to benchmark all the numbers that we had. You see on the far right, we have the current EPC fee schedule broken out by division, the different types of fees, the current EPC fee, the proposed range of fees, and then the comparison versus other Florida locals. Perhaps a simpler way to look at it is graphically here. As you see, the navy blue line on this, for instance, under the air fees there, that's EPC's range of proposed air fees. You see it goes from 0 to 1290, and that still compares favorably to the other locals, which range from 0 to 2000. And that's pretty much true across all 4 divisions. So in summary, we want to assure you that we did use a consistent full cost methodology. It's been documented. We took into account all EPC's efficiencies. We took into account the stakeholder comments whenever possible. And we do feel that these reach a situation where we can say that these are equitable adjustments, and wherever we saw an opportunity to take advantage of fairness, we did that as well. It still compares favorably to the other Florida local fees. And despite a 35% increase in the consumer price index since 2003, the last time the fees were updated, most customers will not see change in their fees. If there are any additional revenues which come from this amendment, they will be put towards they'll be put in the general fund to lessen the agency's burden on the general fund itself. So there we are at the staff recommendation. Staff recommends that the proposed rule included in the backup to the agenda be adopted with the minor change that Mr. Shantz mentioned of eliminating section 1-6.02 D4, which is a simple definition. Thank you. Janet?
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to address this issue that's a proponent? That's a proponent. Is there anyone here wishing to address this issue as an opponent? Anyone as an opponent? We now close the public hearing. I have board discussion. Commissioner White, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'll keep this very brief. I know several of us are on a timeline, but I just want to say that it's noteworthy that the chamber isn't packed with stakeholders, and I very much attribute that to Ms. Doherty's leadership and the hard work of both Ms. Doherty and her staff. So I just want to thank you for your leadership on this issue and for your hard work. And with that being said, I'll move the item.
Second.
There's a motion by Commissioner White, second by Commissioner Kemp and Commissioner Merman. Commissioner Kemp, you recognize.
I just wanted to say the same thing. I think that this is an excellent proposal, and look forward to supporting it.
Thank you. Commissioner Merman, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and same kudos. I mean, they just really said what I wanted to. I think your leadership, but you thoroughly vetted this. I think that's what appealed to me in being able to support this, was that was thoroughly vetted. You did tons of research. They compiled lots of data, and you know, this is almost a scientific recommendation, not just, you know, something that's they pulled numbers out of a hat. They have not done that, and so I think the public can be assured that much thought has gone into this, and that in most cases it's not even going to change for most people. So with that, I am going to be supporting.
Thank you. Let me echo that also. Commissioner White put it on the head. Normally when we start talking about fee increases, the chamber gets packed. But we had no one come forth to speak to this. That's because of you, Ms. Doherty, and your staff vetting this thoroughly. So to you to be congratulated with that. And believe me, Commissioner White's going to support it. We have a motion by Commissioner White, second by Commissioner Kemp and Commissioner Merman. Seeing no further discussion, please record your vote.
Motion carried 5-1. Commissioner Hagan voted no.
There would be one. Regular agenda, Ms. Doherty, you recognize.
Thank you, Commissioners. And I did want to give a shout out to Jerry Campbell and staff who spent 2 years working on the process. It is very detailed, and I just wanted to thank you for your hard work and dedication. For the regular agenda, we'll move right into the legislative report with Mr. Shantz.
Morning, Commissioners. I'll be brief with this because I know everybody's pressed for time this morning, so we can pull up the presentation and just go to the second slide right away, the bills that failed. So just want to mention a couple of bills that we were following that did not make it out of the session this year. We were tracking the fracking ban for the well stimulation ban a couple of years ago. There was bills to regulate this process. This year there was bills to ban it. Neither session did anything pass on this. So again, that's not going to go forward. Secondly, we had the Inland Protection Trust Fund. That's the gas tax collection where we use the funds statewide to clean up petroleum storage tank contamination. This year they proposed to fund it at $150 million and divert $30 million of it toward dry cleaning solvent cleanup. That bill did not pass, so we won't be taking funds away from the storage tank cleanup for dry cleaning. There's also a bill that we were tracking that would have required septic systems to be remediated. This would have affected us at the local level. It would have required DEP, Department of Health, utilities, and local governments to have remediation plans for septic tanks, but that didn't pass. Also, what failed, which we were very happy about, you wrote a letter early in the session about having all of our regulations for harvesting of trees and mitigation for trees, whether they're wetland species or upland oaks, old oaks, to be preempted from the local government to the state. Your letter helped. We passed that around, and it didn't pass that. So that bill failed as well, and we thank you for your help there. The next slide, just briefly a couple bills that did pass. We can go right into the next slide to talk about a major bill that passed. The federal wetland permitting process is Section 404 under the U.S. Code. It's administered by the EPA, but it's implemented by the Army Corps of Engineers. That is now, if this bill is signed by the governor, it will allow the delegation of the federal wetland permitting program to be delegated to the state. It has some other provisions which we won't go over, but essentially the state implementing this program would also allow the state to delegate it further down to either the water management districts or local governments. So there's possibilities in the future of more streamlining. This was looked at as a mixed, some people liked this, some people didn't, but we generally think that if this is implemented properly at the state level, it's a good thing for streamlining. Secondly, there was a very large bill, omnibus bill, about environmental regulation that we followed. Lots of different things in here about regulating reclaimed water use. One of the issues is private recycling companies could not be required by local governments to handle contaminated recycling materials, and that would take effect in July of 2018, so could affect the county level on some of its contracts. A lot of other things in the bill, including the replacement of docks that were maybe taken out by hurricanes. It wouldn't require a new ERP permit to put them back if they were put back within same size and within 5 feet or so. That passed, as well as a Blue Star certification program for wastewater collection systems. Some action plans to have those facilities. So essentially, it was a large bill, and some good things in here. A lot of mixed bag in this bill, though. But the budgeting was statewide was handled very favorably this year for the environment. I believe we had $100 million put forward for the Florida Forever program, which that's much more than has been in the past. $248 million for Everglades restoration and $50 million for the restoration of springs. So finally, we moved to the Constitution Revision Commission. You also helped us in February by passing a resolution opposing Proposal 95, which would have been largely a major anti-home rule provision placed into the Constitution, directly conflicting with the home rule provision that is currently in the Florida Constitution. It would probably invalidate a large portion of local government regulations and preempt them to the state. We did take the resolution to March 13th public hearing for the CRC that was held in St. Petersburg. The next slide. And we presented that resolution to the full committee. There was no comments, but they have it. And they're now taking the show off the road and into Tallahassee, where the commission now will decide which provisions make it to the ballot. They have to act by May 10th to see what they're going to put in. This provision could be reworded and reworked and come back, but there'll be no further ability for public comment. So they have the resolution, though, so we'll see what happens. And if there's any questions, that's the end of my report.
I see no questions. I know that the legislature thought that when Victor Chris left them up there, those long bills with all those pages and stuff buried in it would be eliminated, but I see they still do the same thing that Victor taught them how to do. We had created a rule when we were up there with the Victor Chris rule. We couldn't do that. Okay.
It's just a simple glitch bill.
Yeah, right. 300 pages. that we will get the night before the session ends. Okay. Executive Director's report.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'll move through this as quickly as I can. The first slide, EPC, Michelle Jenkins, our sustainability coordinated a tour for us of senior staff of the Waste Management Recycle America facility in Tampa. That's the material recovers facility. They call that a MRF. It has an educational center, and I recommend the tour highly to anyone. They bring school children, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and they have a whole area just to have you learn about recycling. The second one was a Lower Green Swamp tour. I personally want to thank Stephen Raymond, Andy Fairbanks, and Ross Dickerson with Hillsborough County Conservation and Lands Management Department for hosting this tour of the Lower Green Swamp Nature Preserve last month. We were joined by Commissioner Kemp, her daughter Ella, Wind, and aides Raquel Valdez and David Garcia. The Conservation and Lands Management Department manages more than 61,000 acres of environmentally sensitive wildlife habitat. Since 1991, ELAP has received over $2 million of funding from the Pollution Recovery and Garnier Settlement Trust Funds administered by the EPC for restoration projects including Cockroach Bay, Apollo Beach, McKay Bay, and the Schultz Nature Preserve. We discussed future partnering and outreach opportunities, and our first collaboration will be in honor of Wetlands Month in May. And I recommend that tour too. I know many of you have been out to that area, but it's beautiful. May is Wetlands Month. Our staff will be coordinating with the Conservation ELAP program to host a Walking Through Wetlands. So we'll have these on our website if you care to join us. EPC participated in the Strawberry Festival Grand Parade. This is an annual event for EPC, and we love taking the opportunity to get out in the community to interact with our stakeholders, and we know you commissioners do as well. Commissioner Kemp was in front of us handing out beads. These are our upcoming outreach events we have we participated in. We have a variety: Earth Day, Arbor Day planned for the month of April. Earth Day is at the Dale Mabry campus of HCC, and EcoFest is at the Lowry Park Zoo, as it is every year. I'd like to give a shout out to Ed Kopic and Jeff Sims, who were instrumental in assisting EPC obtain a tree grant through the Forestry Service again this year. We will be celebrating Arbor Day with a tree planting ceremony at Yates Elementary. And thank you to the principal, Mr. Shields, for making this event possible. Dave Carlin is heading up a team from EPC to participate in the Keep Tampa Bay Beautiful cleanup at Lucy Dell Park in Tampa as well. And the final event that will be occurring in May is obviously the Clean Air Fair. It's right down here in the plaza. It's very well attended. We will have trees again this year and lots of fun activities for the Air Fest. So please join us. Thank you so much.
Okay. I see no comments from staff. Is there any further business to come before us today? Before we leave, Mr. Campbell, congratulations on your retirement. Take it easy. Mr. Batchelor, congratulations. If you go to Jamaica anytime soon, bring back some conch salad, but not too spicy. We're adjourned.